we go again.
I demand more.
I want it, I need it, and I'm gonna have it.
Welcome once again to Local Music Somewhere. And today in the studio, the guest that I have is Val Merza. And Val is a singer-songwriter who has an incredible journey of overcoming obstacles to become the artist that she's become. And it's going to be a fascinating story. I'm glad you're able to tune in for it. So welcome, Val.
Thank you so much for having me.
So when we first talked, I think I contacted you over a year ago.
Yeah.
And I just saw that you were working so hard. And I knew of this event called Creative Mornings. And I was like, oh, she would be perfect for this. She needs to know these people. So that's when we started talking. And then since that time, it's just been like you've been in overdrive or something, because so much has happened to you. And congratulations, you were also just on the cover of Queen City Nerve. And I've not seen, many indie artists that are rising as fast as you that make the cover, that quick.
Thank you
on
so
a paper
much.
like that. So I was like, oh, must be really something to this. She must be really working hard. So I contacted rBeatz and I said, hey, I found this artist that I think would be a great interview. And then they were like, who is it? And I said, it's Val Murza. Oh my God, we love Val. We've gone to see her in concert. So that made me check with a few other people, and it just seems like everybody loves Val. And I was like, why are so many people fascinated with this new artist? There's so many artists. She's great, but what does she have that's really, that different besides her songwriting? Because your songwriting is amazing, and your voice is amazing, and you know how to perform. But I was like, what is it that draws you? And I asked a lot of people, and they all said because she's real. So I just want to talk to you more about your journey and being real. But first, let's talk about a little bit more about the cover that you got with Queen City Nerve. How did that come about?
So it's funny. How did that happen? Okay, so I was doing the promo for the single release show at Tommy's Pub in around Plaza Midwood, and that's where I was having my show, my full band show, to celebrate the release of that single. And Jamie is the owner of Tommy's, and I think he was in contact with Pat Moran, who's the person that interviewed me, and he's Pat's amazing. Oh my God. He's incredible. And he made me feel very comfortable in talking. He sent me an email through my contact form on my website, hey, I'm with Queen City Nerve. And I woke up to this email, and I was like, oh my God, wait, is it the Queen City Nerve? And I checked the email to make sure that I wasn't getting fished for information. And that's kind of how it happened. I think Jamie and Pat are they talk regularly, and that's how that happened. And it was kind of that. But then I think that started Pat finding out more about me. It was that introduction by Jamie, and the thing is, I didn't know that I was going to be on the cover until the day of, when I started getting text messages from friends with a picture this you what? And I was I had told my friend Zach that was happening, the interview was happening. I was like, that's super cool, and it was, but that was it. And then he wakes up and he's also on the cover because he was playing guitar for me on that cover. So he's like, dude, why didn't you tell me that? And I was like, I didn't even know. Pat didn't even know. It just kind of happened that way. And so that's how that happened.
And I think they called it From the Heart.
Yeah.
I think was the name of the article. And I saw that and I thought, after talking to people, and finding out how real you were, and in reading that and seeing what a journey it's been, when you hear the phrase "from the heart," it sounds like one of those rom-coms or one of those nice stories about how somebody meets, they fall in love, and everything's happily ever after, heartwarming. But from the heart, the heart is your core, and it's not always pleasant, and it can be very complicated. It can be dark. It can be fun. It can be uplifting. There's so many things to it. So knowing that and knowing your story, it was such a great title. Let's go into your journey and
Yeah.
This is where I would probably like you to talk quite a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's just such an amazing story, but it's not always a pleasant story. And you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, let's do that.
So I don't. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that I didn't have the best upbringing. When people listen to my songs, it's very obvious. I like abuse, domestic violence. I was in group homes, mental health institutions because I didn't want to live if I had to live at home. And I turned 18 on May 12th of 2016. I hadn't even graduated high school yet, and I left home because I didn't, like, legally, they couldn't keep me there anymore. And I couch surfed for a while. I was homeless. I couch surfed for a while, for about a year, and then I lived in like homeless shelters for about like 2 years after that, and then I dormed. I finished my my associate's degree at Bergen Community College.
And what was that in?
Sorry?
What was your degree in?
That was just in professional studies.
Okay.
Because I just needed as much flexibility as I could because I was like working full time and I was a full time student, but I was also living in a shelter. So and I had to like take the bus to work, and then finally I got my car, which made things easier. And then I transferred to Ramapo College, where I went for social science, the degree completion program, which was like a hybrid online thing where I think like before I started the website said that you had to be 25 or older, and I like argued my case with administration. So I think I may have been the youngest like person to be in that program. And afterwards, like they now have it on like a case by case basis. And I got my degree in social science, and I wanted to do law. I wanted to be a lawyer, so I took my LSAT. I studied for my LSAT while I was still at Ramapo. Took it. And everything was great. I was like getting letters, and then I like had my string of medical issues where high levels of stress put me at risk for more of it. So I was like, okay, law school is 3 years of stress. This is not the time, but I can't stay here. I'm 24. I was 24 at the time. I need to get out. There's way more to life than Jersey. Like God forbid I meet someone up here or I get a better job. I was in finance, so I gave my 2 weeks notice, and I decided on Charlotte about 3 weeks before I actually moved. I got robbed by the moving company. You know how that happens. Everyone pretends to be the broker. And then I moved here, and as soon as I got here, I had a really hard time finding a job because I'm not licensed by FINRA in the state. So I couldn't get a job in my field. So I was like, okay, this is not going to be my story. I did not come down all the way down here. I don't know anyone within 700 miles, and now I'm going to be homeless again? No. So what can I do in the meantime until I can get a full-time job to make ends meet? I knew some chords, and I knew a lot of cover songs. So I just started like emailing places. I didn't have a full-time job, so I was able to invest all of my time into it. And it got to a point where I had to quit a part-time job in February after like 2 weeks because there was just too much music, and it was doing more for me, like personally, like than finance or any other job could do. And it kind of took a life of its own. And places like the Evening Muse, for example, like they allow covers, but they're more like they encourage originals. And after a while, before I moved here, I only had 3 originals written. After a while, you play the same 3 originals rotating. It motivated me to write more. And now I have over 20 songs written, and I'm like
okay, this story,
and,
but this story is not normal. You know, not just which we'll go back into in a minute. Not just all the hard things that you went through. It's the fact that you got here and your first idea to make money is trying to be a performer, you know, a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Because there are a ton of singer-songwriters in Charlotte that would love to have, you know, those opportunities, but they didn't do the things that you're doing. I mean, they did work on their music, but working on your music is just part of it. You have to get the gigs. You have to be good at the gigs. You have to be invited back. You have to nurture the audience. There's so many things that you just had the knack for. Do you think that your bouts of homelessness and the issues in your home taught you to be that fighter that had to look for those things, or was it your business degree?
Oh, it was definitely like the survival mindset where it's like I'm extremely adaptable now because I've always had to be like on my feet, like just quick, like, okay, this happened. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to cry about it, sulk about it? And like, I think it is important to feel your feelings and be sad, like when something sad happens, but it's a slippery slope and you start to wallow in it. And then, you're just in this vicious cycle. And I could never afford to do that. I never had the luxury of being able to sulk in it. So I think having that mindset where it's like, okay, I'll figure it out. I always do somehow. It has been so much worse than this. And
so much worse.
It's been so much worse.
Though.
Yeah.
That's a big key.
And I think I don't agree with people saying it's like, oh, like you shouldn't be too sad because people have it worse than you. I don't agree with that.
That's
but
everybody's journey is a little bit
but
different.
that's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
But with me, it's like I know how bad it's been for me, and that kind of like mindset has really helped me, I think. And it wasn't really like a choice. I think I don't think that everything happens for a reason. I don't like that saying. I think that some things just are really shitty and they happen, and that's the end of it. That is as simple as it is. But I do think that things happen exactly the way that they're supposed to. And like, how can you really like have regrets if you're happy with where you are now? It's like, then you would regret, like, those two things, like they're not mutually exclusive. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So it's like you can't have one without the other.
Well,
So.
they say we're motivated by two things, either inspiration or desperation. And desperation seems to be a much greater motivator.
Yeah.
That pain seems to be a much greater motivator. And you can either sit in it, which a lot of us do. Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to.
Even people that don't now have sat in it before. Mm-hmm. You get to that point. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but you chose a different way.
Yeah.
Out, and you got those things done. Can we go a little bit more into the journey of, like, how did it work with you being homeless? I mean, just what was that like?
Well, this was back in New Jersey. So I lived in like the general homeless shelter, which was like basically 18 plus. I was there for about a month or two. And then I was moved to the youth shelter in like the same town. That I think I was there about a year and a half, 2 years before I went to Rampo. But it was not a good place to live. There was a lot of probably, I don't know if there was, people were not, like, the residents were not treated well there, and the way that it kind of is at shelters like that. I lived in that shelter for about a year and a half, and then I would take the bus to school, to Bergen Community College, and I would take classes from like 8 a.m. to like noon, and then I would work on campus because I was part of the, I forget, it was a while ago, but it's like the like student employees. And I would work there for about a year, an hour or two, and then I would take the bus to Bergen Town Center. Wow, I still remember that. And I would like have a job there because I didn't have a car yet. So I was like a front desk person at Massage Envy from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then I would hope that I could catch the 10:15 bus because NJ Transit, if you look it up, it's not great. And then sometimes I would end up like losing most of the money that I made that day because I had to get an Uber home because the bus was the last one to take me home. But that was my life for a while. Sometimes I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how I did that for so long. It's because I had that momentum already. It's like I didn't know anything else. I didn't have my first drink till I was 22. Yeah, because I knew myself. I know I get carried away. And I knew that if I had my first drink before I graduated college, I was not going to graduate college. But it's like those things where it's like, knowing yourself and knowing what you're capable of, knowing where you're lacking, and then compensating for it in a different way. And I feel like I do that in like my music too. Like people say all the time, like, oh, like that's crazy. Like you only know like 4 or 5 chords and you're doing all this. I'm like, that's all you need.
How did you even know 4 or 5 chords though? How are you homeless And in that part, I mean, did somebody give you a guitar? Did you learn from, I don't know, a friend or a relative, or?
So we had a guitar at home, like growing up, but I did not want anything to do with it. And then one day, I just didn't want anything in common with my dad.
Also,
and he played, yeah.
Okay.
And then one day I heard the song "Therapy" by All Time Low, because I was a troubled teenager, and it starts off on, I think, like electric like guitar, but it's like a really pretty riff, and I was like, I have to learn this song, like. And in my head, it's like, okay, this is the only song I'm going to learn. So I like looked up on YouTube the chords, and I learned the song. I learned the riff and everything. And here I am. Like, that was like when I was like 14. Like, keyboard was actually my first instrument. I started like teaching myself stuff on keyboard when I was like 13. And then ever since then. But like, I also have not been able to practice very much, like for most of that time, because again, I was homeless. We had like a bin like that big in the first shelter that I was living in, where you could keep all of your stuff. That I kept my entire life in that little box. There's not even a space for a ukulele in there. And I learned, part of why actually I learned ukulele was because I had to like pack so light. And I was like with friends. This is when I was like 17. I was with friends just hanging out, and my friend had a ukulele, and I was like, that would be convenient. So I just started Google imaging ukulele chords. I'm like, oh, this is actually easier than guitar. But I got lucky in that, like, I already played guitar, so ukulele was kind of a breeze for me to learn. And but that's kind of how like I like kept that going.
Well, it served you well, right?
Oh, yeah, because now I can play ukulele on my own tracks if I wanted to.
Well, when we're going to take a break here in a moment, and when we come back, we're going to talk to you more about your, well, I say we, it's going to be me, talk to you more about your songwriting and your touring and how these things have transitioned into that. Yeah. And so we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Local Music Somewhere. Guest here today is Val Merza, and we've been talking about her journey, which has been an incredible story of where you came from, your tenacity, the way you've overcome obstacles to get to this point that a lot of people, you know, there are young artists that listen, and just people in general, that they need that strength to overcome some of the things that they do, and we all help each other in that way. The things that we've gone through, they are so horrific to us sometimes and so empowering, but they're not just for us to go through. They're so we can help somebody else as they're going through something. And I know your story is going to help a lot of people. And those stories also work their way into your song lyrics. And as I said when we were talking before in the first half, is that everybody I talked to loved you. And the reason that they loved you, including the staff here at rBeatz, was because you're so real. And not just, hey, everything's great, kind of real. You're real that way. But you're also real about, you know, things that sometimes are dark, or some ways that you've been mistreated. And that's a light word in this situation. But one in particular, let's talk about this, because I've even played this song for my wife. Love the song. And
Thank you.
This is my 23. So how did that come about, and what has the response been to that one?
Oh my God. So I wrote that song a few days after my 23rd birthday, where I felt myself kind of spiraling, and I was, especially like with social media, everyone's posting and that's also like something I like about social media, is that I can like be real on that too, rather than like just in my songs or like in person. It's like I kind of just like, it's all one person. But that song, I wrote it because I was panicking that, like I I don't have, like, I'm not married, and I don't have a boyfriend, and I don't have the picket fence, and, like, the job, and I mean, I had the job, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't hit so many milestones that a lot of my friends were reaching. Like, my friend had just gotten engaged. I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't want to date right now, but I feel like I have to because everyone's doing it, and that song is kind of just like it's changed its meaning over time, because at the time I was also in the midst of what one would call a situationship with this guy in his 30s, and it was that whole like, oh, you're so mature for your age, like. He was banking on my lack of experience, and like even then, like the more you realize that like nobody knows what they're doing.
We're all going through this life is our first time, right?
Oh, I love that quote. Yeah, like that song, that line was written as a dig to him, because I was at open mics in like New Jersey, New York, playing it, and I would look him dead in the eye and sing it. Everybody in that room knew who we were talking about, and because everyone knows.
Can you give us the second verse? The lyrics in the second verse.
Yeah, so the second verse goes, half my friends are married with kids, and the other half got to ask their parents to go out past 10. Half my friends, they hate the drama, but the other half, it's like high school never ends. And dating is such a fucking pain. Guys in their 20s, they're all insane, but guys in their 30s play the same old games. It's like nothing ever fucking changes. I look to my girl who just got engaged, can't help but feel a bit ashamed, but I know that our timelines ain't the same, and that's okay. So it's like, yeah, he was not happy about that. And then, like, but it's funny how like that song has evolved, because there's this one. It was actually at the Evening Muse where I was about to go up and play, and this guy was standing next to me. We were flirting, talking, and then he like pulled a dick move, and I was like, "Oh, you're funny for thinking that I'm the one to try that with." So I got up there and I sang, and usually it was supposed to be dating is such a fucking pain. Guys in their 20s, they're all insane, but guys in their 30s play the same old games. It's like nothing ever changes. I spoke it and looked directly at him because I'm petty, and that is what I do, and it stuck.
And you know, something we haven't even covered here, it was like, yeah, you knew the chords and guitar, but the way, it's one thing to have that story. It's one thing to have the words to say that story, but to put the words in the way that you put them, that's not just something you're born with necessarily. Did you just learn it over time? Or because it's pretty poetic. I mean, that song, it has depth, but you had a great way of saying it that makes it very interesting. Yeah,
I think like my songwriting has evolved a lot. Like that song I wrote when I was 23, and it's funny because I play it and I'm going to be 26 in May. So it's like, and I'm glad that I didn't wait any longer to record that song and put it out, because I've gotten to a point now where there are songs that I haven't put out that I liked at the time, but I don't feel them anymore, and they're not representative of me as an artist anymore. And like even some songs that are going to be on the EP, like when I was recording them, I had to put myself back in that headspace of when I was actually happy with that person. Knowing what I know now, I don't feel that way naturally, but I have to kind of like create it in the studio. But that song, like Whatever It Takes, that's going to be the first track on like my upcoming release. That's the first song I ever wrote, like from beginning to end. And like my songwriting has like, I like to tell stories, but I also want to tell it in a way that more people can relate to than just me telling the story.
Right.
Like there is a theme to every song. Like this is my 23. It's like, this is just my 23. Like, you don't have to be 23 to relate to that song. You don't even need to have been 23 to relate to that song. So many people are going to interpret that in their own way, and it's going to reach a lot of people. Now, speaking of reaching people with it, let's bring up that I know you released a song and you ran into some issues with releasing that song, right? And
again, you turned that around, but
yeah.
How did that work?
So I released This Is My 23 July of 2023, and I had my second single, Hey Stranger, scheduled for January 26th. A week before that, I get a notification from DistroKid, my distributor, that 100% of my streams are fake and that they're all artificial, and I bought them, and my song is being taken down from Spotify as a result. I had gotten 14,000 streams, give or take a few streams, in those like 6-7 months, I think, that I spent like promoting it. And like, yeah,
when you're
14,000
playing live, it doesn't even sound like it would be a horrific, crazy amount for somebody that plays live. And
yeah, like 14,000 streams is a lot if you're not touring all the time and you're not playing out 4 times a week and announcing your social media handles like every 15 minutes. Like,
right.
If I wasn't doing that, then like, okay, but even then, it's like I was getting added to local playlists, like, and like, I was like, promoting my stuff on podcasts, and like I was talking to people, and people would sing my words back to me at my shows. What do you mean 100% of my streams are fake? And it's just very convenient that Spotify changed their terms of service. A couple, like it was this year, where if 90% or more of your streams are fake, which they don't have to prove it, and there's no way for me to prove that I didn't buy streams. It's like there's like guilty until proven innocent, but it's in their terms of service, so they can clearly do whatever they want, which means that they don't also have to pay the royalties that they're claiming that I bought, like the streams that I bought, and you know, Spotify,
it has been a great tool for getting a lot of songs out for artists. Of course, your experience was unpleasant, you know, as we know, but you didn't leave it as an unpleasant thing. You found a different route. It's like the whole life hands you lemons, you know, cliche, but you really turned it around. So how did you do that, and what brought, you know, that to your mind to be able to do it that way?
So I think it actually, it's funny because I did think about it in that way, but I didn't expect it to happen. Like, I didn't expect it to have as much of an impact as it did. I think because I was so quick to say something so publicly out loud. Like, I think a lot of artists, it's happening to a lot of artists, but I think the reason not many people are talking about it is because like people give Spotify the benefit of the doubt, and people are embarrassed that like, what if they did buy streams, like a few streams, like just to like get the metrics up, because like for like vanity metrics, like it is what it is. Like I know that I would not be getting as many gigs as I am if I didn't have as many Instagram followers as I did. Like you unfortunately, like, and also like the biggest artists also use bots. So, like, even if someone did do that, they're not going to say anything about it because they're embarrassed. But I wasn't, because people already know how hard I work to promote my stuff. So I had no shame in saying, yeah, I was accused by Spotify for buying streams, and everyone knows that it's BS because of how hard I've worked. So I think that and also because I was so quick with it to talk about it, like, it started a conversation, at least like in the local community, one that hadn't really been talked about just yet, because people weren't talking about it yet because it just started. And then I decided, okay, like my upcoming EP, it was supposed to be a 4-track EP. And a week before I was going to announce the EP at my single release show at Tommy's, that happened. So I was like, okay, how can I spin this in a way that is going to benefit me and let people know how Spotify treats artists? And then I realized, like, okay, when I first had This Is My 23 produced, like, I didn't have any knowledge of the recording or production process, so I didn't give as much input as I should have, or that I would have if I had more knowledge. So I was like, okay, why don't I just re-record it, like, completely from scratch, like, and I did that with Ginger Cat Sounds, and he, like, produced my entire EP. But that's what I did. I like recreated it, and I'm going to be like posting like clips about it soon, just to like get people interested. And it's like, you know how it is. Like you can never stop promoting anything. You're always promoting. But Correct. It's cool when you're promoting the same thing, but in a different font almost musically.
Well, you know, crazily, even when you promote the audiences become different, as time goes on. I remember, I wrote a book. Of course, I promoted it big when it came out, and the book did decent. And then I'll occasionally post things like, "This is from the book," and still to this day, I get these comments on social media. "Oh, wow, you came out with the book! Congratulations!"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's been a little bit,
Yeah.
but they're just, it's like they're just catching on. And some of them, I see that they knew about it back then, but they know about it now. So yeah, you have that plays into it. So where is it coming out on now that it's not Spotify?
So every single streaming platform except for Spotify is where it's going to be out. Yeah. Could Have Been Me. We're recording this now, but Could Have Been Me is going to be on all streaming platforms except for Spotify. And part of why I do, people would tell me that, oh, you could just re-upload it. And just, one, I don't trust that that's not going to happen again. I lost all of those numbers. I lost all of those streams. And I also, Spotify doesn't pay artists well. It barely pays at all. I think from the 14,000 streams, I think it's $0.003 per. Apple Music pays artists I think nearly twice that much, which it's still not great, but it's something. And I think people hearing oh, this girl is on every streaming platform but Spotify, and it immediately begs the question, wait, why? And that starts that conversation. And I know a couple people who have already switched to Apple Music because of you want to support local music, but you can't afford to buy merch. Switch to Apple Music. You don't even need an iPhone to use Apple Music. And I'm pretty sure the sound quality on Apple Music, depending on who you are, Spotify is way more compressed. And I think Spotify is a great way to get discovered as opposed to Apple Music. But Apple Music is the better way to support, especially independent artists,
Well,
which is.
Do you think there's room for all of that?
For all of what?
Even, and this is just me asking you.
Yeah.
You're used to tough questions. You're not.
Yeah.
I know the streams may disappear, but do you think it's not beneficial at all just to put it back on there, just to have? I've seen people pull their stuff from Spotify, and it's not been a benefit to them.
Yeah.
And each one of these pay different, and I feel that artists in general, if you're trying to be an artist, you're trying to be a recording artist, and you seem to know these things. You seem to have researched, but every artist needs to understand the revenue streams, how the pay structure works, what works for them, what works for their particular audience, what's a good fit, and in terms of service, any of these kind of things, they should be reading, and most don't. Most don't dig into that research.
Yeah.
I've seen, of course, you do it, and we've talked about Arsena Todd, which we've had on the show. One thing that I've said to you in our messages is that, email list, for instance, you two are two of the artists in the Charlotte base here that have actually followed through on your email list, which is such a huge thing. We might even get into that before the end of the program today, but such a huge thing that most artists don't do. But you did that. And it's the same thing with researching these things. And who knows how the story plays out. It's going to be a personal thing with you, but the important thing is that the fans know where to find your song, and that they can go get it, and not just this is my 23, but you've already had another single out that's for your upcoming EP, correct?
Yeah.
And which is Hate Stranger.
Yes.
And then have you released the other one yet?
Could Have Been Me is going to be tonight.
Okay, it's going to be tonight. And then
so by the time people hear this, it will be out, most likely, if they're not listening already.
Okay, and I know you said in the program, but how many songs will be on this EP?
5.
5. And when is the official release date of that EP?
Friday, May 10th.
Are you doing anything special for that?
Yes, I am.
Well, would you tell me what you're doing?
So I'm the EP comes out May 10th, and then the following day, May 11th, Saturday, that is my EP release show / birthday party, where Lisa DeNovo, she's playing with her band. She's going to be opening, and then Damon McCoy is going to be opening with his band, and then I'm going to be headlining.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more detail about that if we can.
Sure.
But let's talk about one other thing before we get that, and that's the fact of how many places you tour. You're not just an artist that plays Charlotte. You know, there's great artists that just play Charlotte. That's what they choose to.
Yeah.
But you play a lot of different places, and you have a unique style as far as how you've gotten into, you know, some of those places. Let's talk about your current tour.
Yeah, so currently I'm on the Colors tour promoting Colors. That's the name of the EP. My first tour was the Fool's Fall tour because of the type of weather we have around that time. But that was from October, I think 2nd maybe, to November 1st to November 31st. It was just a month long. I went to a bunch of different cities. I don't even remember how many. Maybe it was like 7 or 8, and then there were like 4 states maybe. But how that happened is actually kind of funny. I had to stop booking in Charlotte because I was pretty much like, there are a lot of people that are willing to play for $100 and a free beer,
and you get overexposed really easy in one market.
And like starving the market and like all that. Yeah. I learned that term from my musician friends, but also like I was getting priced out. Like like a lot of places, like especially with like the recession and everything, like people, like venues couldn't afford the rate that I needed to survive. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do about this? I'm going to get a part-time job that I am going to hate, and I'm not going to have as much time to write and create. Okay, I'm just going to start booking outside of, I don't mind driving. Like, I'll just, so I started doing that. And then October rolls around, and I'm looking at I'm going to kill her. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, how that happened was... I was looking at my calendar on my website, like, because I like put my dates on it. I was like, I'm going to a lot of different states and cities, and I'm going to be playing my originals at them. And I'm finishing off the month with me headlining the Milestone in Charlotte, which is like world famous.
Yeah.
Why don't I just call it a tour? Because, I mean, it is. And, I mean, like, it's nothing that I haven't already been doing. I've been technically touring the whole time. But especially, like, when I had to start, like, playing outside of Charlotte. But it became, like, this huge thing where, like, I got to use that to promote myself further and, like, get even, like, more attention. And it's, like, I kind of, like, made it a bigger deal than it actually was. Even, like, it was a big deal this entire time, but now it's an even bigger deal. So that's kind of how that happened. I would just, like, I would send, like... Now, I mean, I've been a little lazy about it. But, like, I would be sending, like... 1,000, 1,500 emails a week, like just to venues, follow-ups, and then sending the place a DM, and they get me back with an email, and I'm like, hey, I have reached out to this place this address 4 times, like, and then they send me, it's like, oh, sorry, that person doesn't work there anymore, here's a new email, and then I send them an email, and they're like, and I send them like, hey, like, I haven't heard back, and they're like, oh, sorry, you were in spam, like, how are these 9 dates for the rest of the year? So it's like, it really is the persistence, and like, it's really hard when I hear other artists who want to gig, like, say, it's like, shit, like, I sent, like, 50 emails and I haven't heard anything back. I was like, oh, you got a big storm coming.
Yeah, if you don't have something happening, it's because you don't have enough in your queue.
Exactly.
You don't have enough contacts. Yeah. You've not made enough contacts.
Yeah.
There are not easier, but there are more strategic ways to do certain things that you learn over time. But then there's the tenacity.
Yeah.
And just how you got, to play in Nashville. That alone. Tell me how you did that.
So I reached out because I'd heard about Nashville, like, as like Music City, and like I wanted to play there, but I didn't know how to. So there was this guy, James Tristan Redding, like, he hosts an open mic, like a songwriter round in Nashville. So like I saw his stuff, and I just DM'd him, and I reached out, and I was like, hi, my name is Val, and I'm from Charlotte, and I want to play at your thing. So can you tell me more? Like, I'd love to, like, and like people don't do, and I think I like, it's in the article, like, but I'm autistic, so there are certain things that, like, norms, like social norms, that I don't pick up on. So most people wouldn't just randomly send a DM to an absolute stranger in a different state saying, hey, like, you're cool, let's talk. And like, I think this is something that I've like realized is that a lot of the social norms, like, people don't actually care.
And those, right, because those social norms a lot of times have caused people fear into stepping out.
Yeah.
And I have stories on that where I've seen in action that people that don't have those, they have the most sales because they ask when other people are afraid to ask, and they, you know, they just ask, even if it's the same way every time. It can even be a numbers game, but it's worked. Yeah. And didn't you like just carry your equipment around and just started just carry your guitar around, start trying to play places in Nashville?
Yeah, that's what happened at the first time I went. It was at the Spring Water. Like that's the first place I played at, and then they, like, people there were telling, and like the Nashville crowd is insanely supportive. Like there's support in Charlotte, but it's just a different environment there where like people were just trying to help. And they told I asked James, like, hey, where should I go? And he was like, oh, well, there's like live music and food because I'm hungry. And he's like, okay, well, Commodore Grill, like, they have an open round at the end, if you want to check that out. So I like played the open mic round towards the end, and then Debbie, who runs that open mic, at least at that night, she gave me her card, and I like played there sometime last year, like over the summer. But it's just, you never know what's going to happen just from talking to somebody. And I think that's part of why I've done as well as I have, is because I'm not an extrovert because I'm a musician. I'm a good musician because I'm an extrovert. Like, I love talking to people, and they find their ways into my songs too. So it's like, you might end up in a song, for better or for worse.
Well, and with your songs and your release, let's go into a little bit more detail. You've talked about it before on your EP release, but who are some of the musicians maybe that you have on that are playing live with you in your band?
Oh, yes. So Damon McCoy, he's going to be playing rhythm guitar, and then Ian Cunningham, who is...
Yeah,
like,
a lot of people around here know Ian.
Oh my God! Like, yeah, he's playing keys, and like this is the first time that I'm playing live with keys, which is super exciting. And then Zach Farrell is gonna be playing bass. He is just different. Like, he's incredible. And then David Gibson, who's going to be on drums, and it's a super solid lineup. And Damon also has his own set that he's going to be doing right before me. And then Lisa DeNovo, she's going to be opening.
I love her. I've actually helped her get some auditions out west, and she's somebody I need to have on the show sometime. I've known about her for a long time. Yeah, and she's a worker as well. She's constantly on the road or doing something. And when and where is this again? This is
May 11th. That's a Saturday. Doors at 8, and then the music starts at 9. And it's at Petra's Bar in Charlotte.
Petra's, which is, such a great location. They're known for several styles of music.
Yeah, and it's 21 plus.
21 plus. Yeah. Okay, that's important. And how do they get tickets?
So there's an Eventbrite link where there's a Facebook event, and also if you just go to my website valmurza.com, upcoming shows, that is the first thing on that page, where like the event link is there, the ticket link, everything. It's $8 in advance, $12 day of. Okay, I believe.
That's great. That's good information.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, for being on the show, because you're so incredible and you're so animated and you have such a great story. And, it's really cool getting to know you. And we're going to take another break. And when we come back, Val is going to play some of her songs live for us. But right before we do, this is a thing that may be new to you. But I'm going to do a quick thing where I'm going to play a game with you. Is that okay?
Okay, depends on the game.
Okay, hold on one second. It's kind of a trivia situation.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you just some questions. I just want you to give me an answer.
Sure.
Would you rather play in Charlotte at the Panther Stadium or play in LA for a small group of music industry executives?
Panther Stadium.
Why?
Because the reach is better and I'm reaching more people. And like, who's to say that any of those executives are going to take a chance on me? Like, how far am I in my career am I playing in front of those executives? Because realistically, those executives might be more interested in me if I was more developed. So I just have a better chance at reaching more people. And like also like I feel like people that are sitting at Panther Stadium are more lay people like me, where it's like I'm not like nobody is like judging me on things that I don't really care about. Like I want people to relate to me, and people sitting at Panther Stadium are way more likely to do that than a bunch of music executives.
You are a people person, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, question 2 is, would you rather sign a 6-album deal with a record company or be a music influencer with millions of followers on Instagram?
Probably the music influencer one. Just because the way that labels are set up now, you kind of need to be established as an artist before you get decent deals. And like if I have 1 million followers already, then it's more likely that I'm going to get a good deal, and I'll get to like pick and choose, or I could just choose to stay independent because I've gotten this far because I have 1 million followers. So like, why would it, you know?
Well, here's my favorite question. You ready
Sure.
for this?
Yeah.
Would you rather perform on a cruise ship around Europe? Europe's pretty awesome. For a week, or the Sphere in Las Vegas for one night?
Oh, the first one, cruise ship.
Really? Why?
Probably, yeah, because I mean, like, if it's Europe, like most people are going to understand what I'm talking about, and they're going to be able to relate to me. And it would also like just if I'm playing on a cruise ship for a week, like that is so much inspiration for more music. And like my favorite thing of all is performing and songwriting. And if I get to do that for longer, for more people, like that's what I would do.
And plus, you're right there and you're engaged with the people.
Exactly.
Well, like I said, we're going to a break, and when we come back, we get the absolute pleasure of having Val perform here in our studio. Thank you very much, Val Murza.
Thank you so much.
I bet she's spending Christmas Eve drunk driving, while I'm spending winter Christmas caroling. But she can never take my place, 'cause you'll always feel the aftertaste. And every time you kiss her face, your heart breaks a little more. And every time you turn around, you hope that I'll be there somehow. 'Cause when you look at her, all that you can see is that should have been me. Oh, that should have been me.
Excited, but I've been like screaming for the last like 2 hours because I'm so talented. But this song is called "This Is My 23." It's about if you've ever been 23, you can relate to this. Not too long ago, when I get home, I'd find my mother at the door. She'd be worried if I got home past 8, but lately I've been staying out till 4. I used to be afraid of strangers, wouldn't even try to talk to my neighbors 'cause of all those stories in the papers all year. But now I get into strangers' cars, and I meet them when I'm out at bars, and I tell them my place ain't too far from here. I feel too much and I talk too little, and when my friends fight I get caught in the middle, but no one said it would get more simple at all. I'm messy and impulsive and I'm quick to judge, got a habit of falling in and out of love, but it's all just a part of growing up. See,
Supposed to think when you worked so damn hard to get me.
I fed you lies from a script I didn't even know I'd written. Scenes never meant to be recited.
Myself thinking hopefully. I hope we never stop speaking in poetry. 'Cause the city's everything I wanted and somehow even more. I didn't have the bed or the mattress, but at least I've got my living room floor. I was safe and sound and happy and everything else in between. And just when I thought it couldn't get any better, I met an angel through a screen. I may not know clouds ahead, but I know one thing to be true. This city wouldn't feel like home without you. The autumn leaves will come falling down as we approach the end of summer. When you bring these roses back to life and make a blue a happy color. Dark hair, tinted glasses, tells me he's a little out of practice. I know that you're hurting, but so am I. And I'm not about to make that mistake a second time. Hey, stranger, I know that we just met, but I don't wanna have any more regrets.
If your playlist looks like a passport, you're officially a music globetrotter. Welcome to rBeatz Radio. rBeatz Radio is your ultimate global music hub, blending beats and melodies from every corner of the planet. From African rhythms to Asian harmonies, European EDM to Latin grooves, it's all here and it's all amazing. Whether you're vibing in the car, chilling at home, or need a soundtrack for your next adventure, rBeatz has you covered. We're not just about music, we're about connecting people through the universal language of sound. So why stick to one genre when you can have them all? Download the rBeatz app today on the App Store or Google Play. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, X and Facebook for the latest updates and exclusive content. Ready to travel the world through music? Hit play on rBeatz Radio and let the journey begin.
Hi, my name is Val Merza, and this first song is called This Is My 23. If you've ever been 23 years old, you can relate to this song, and I am so sorry. Not too long ago, when I'd get home, I'd find my mother at the door. She'd be worried if I got home past 8, but lately I've been staying out till 4. I used to be afraid of strangers, wouldn't even try to talk to my neighbors 'cause of all those stories in the papers all year. But now I get into strangers' cars and I meet them when I'm out at bars, and I tell them my place ain't too far from here. I feel too much and I talk too little, and when my friends fight I get caught in the middle, but no one said it would get more simple at all. I'm messy and impulsive and I'm quick to judge, got a habit of falling in and out of love, but it's all just a part of growing up, you see. This is just my 23. Oh, this is just my 23. Half my friends are married with kids, and the other half still gotta ask their parents to go out past 10. Half my friends, they hate the drama, but the other half, it's like high school never ends. And dating is such a fucking pain. Guys in their 20s, they're all insane, but guys in their 30s play the same old games. It's like nothing ever fucking changes. I look to my girl who just got engaged, and I can't help but feel a bit ashamed, but I know that our timelines ain't the same, and that's okay. 'Cause I feel too much and I talk too little, and when my friends fight I get caught in the middle, but no one said it would get more simple at all. I'm messy, impulsive, I'm quick to judge, got a habit of falling in and out of love, but it's all just a part of growing up, you see. This is just my 23. I may not have everything I wanted, but just 2 years ago I put myself through college, and I made friends I can only hope won't forget me. I'm on my way to better things. Is it a better job? Is it a diamond ring? 'Cause no matter what this life may bring, I'm ready. I love too hard and I just get burned, but sometimes I guess it takes a couple times to learn, 'cause I believe I love yous even when they're slurred, and I know over time it's only gonna get so much fucking worse. I'm stupid and naive, but I'll be fine on someone else's timeline. I might be behind, but I think I'm doing just great on mine, you see. And this is just my 23. Just my 23. We've all been 23. This is just my 23. She could stay there. This next song is called Could Have Been Me, and it's kind of a breakup song, but also thank God that we broke up kind of thing. And it's gonna be available on most streaming platforms, just not Spotify for obvious reasons, on March 8th. 7 months since we said goodbye, all because I couldn't chase the high derived from breadcrumbs I thought led to love. I was fighting all my feelings while you were fighting all your demons, and for reasons I can't explain, still thought I could be enough. Does she dance on tables like I wouldn't do? I'm sure she might be wild enough for you, but she can never take my place, 'cause you'll always feel the aftertaste. And every time you kiss her face, your heart breaks a little more. And every time you turn around, you hope that I'll be there somehow. 'Cause when you look at her, all that you can see is that should have been me. Oh, that should have been me. We spent the holidays together, but now I can't help but wonder if it was only 'cause you knew we both had no one else. Both our families were estranged. Mine would call me by the name that caused me more shame than I'd ever felt. I bet she's spending Christmas Eve drunk driving, while I'm spending winter Christmas caroling. But she can never take my place, 'cause you'll always feel the aftertaste. And every time you kiss her face, your heart breaks a little more. And every time you turn around, you hope that I'll be there somehow. 'Cause when you look at her, all that you can see is that should have been me. Oh, that should have been me. But I could never take her place, 'cause I would never play your games. But I see her making my mistakes, and my heart just breaks for her. And every time you turn around, I'll be nowhere to be found. 'Cause when I look at her, all that I can see is that could have been me. Oh, that could have been me. She's enough for you, but everything that I never wanna be, but that could have been me. And I'm happy to be me. Close enough. So this next song is called Just Getting Started, and it's about my journey from being a full-time wealth management director in New Jersey to being a full-time starving musician in Charlotte. My Venmo is Val Merza. Hi, thanks for stopping by. Even if you only see me once in a year, even if you came for just a couple of beers, I don't give a fuck, I'm just glad that you're here. I've been writing songs for so long, but I was writing them in places that I never belonged. Every lyric out of place. Turns out, all I had to do was move out of state. There's a rule book on how to feel okay. No instructions on when to know to walk away. But you know when it's time, you'll see all the signs in the back of the driveway. They didn't believe me, and to that all I say is I've never thought I'd ever be the one to say this, but I wanna spend my life putting thoughts to pages. And even though I know I won't end up getting famous, what better way to see the world from these stages? Have you ever tried to move somewhere new? your only friend is you. I can say that I did, I admit, still a kid on a whim, but fuck the myth that you gotta think the whole thing through. Cause there's a beauty in trusting yourself enough to figure it out somehow. So if you're wondering when the time to leave, it's now. I left my job at Puss Town, some may say out the blue, just to spend a year trying to figure out what I want to do. And to be clear, feeling fear is normal, no matter who you are or where you're trying to go. The moving company may have stolen everything I've ever owned, but I still had my car, guitar, my heart, and the great unknown. I've never thought I'd ever be the one to say this, but I want to spend my life singing in new places. And even though I know I won't end up getting famous, what better way to see the world from these stages? This life brought me down to Nashville, Boone, and Charlotte, living the life that I never knew I wanted, writing about hope and fear of being brokenhearted. And anyone who knows me knows I'm just getting started. Nashville, Boone, and Charlotte, may not have much in my wallet, and the greatest part is I'm just getting started. There's no rule book on when it's time to leave or where to go once you know it's time to take the leap. But you know when it's time, I swear you'll be fine. Once you're back out the driveway, I know you'll look back and smile at it someday.